solar energy and how to convert solar energy into electrical power. And this is the third lecture of this series, and this involves the solar thermal power technologies. Before this, we have concentrated our attention, or we were focusing on the solar photovoltaic systems, but today in today's lecture we will discuss about the thermal solar thermal power technologies. Actually, I should give a brief introduction and a brief refresher about the solar technologies to you before starting this lecture. And actually, that introduction is that the solar technologies are divided into majorly two types. One is known as the non-concentrated solar power technology, and the other one is known as the concentrated solar power technology. These are the two broad classifications of the solar energy or solar power technologies. And in these technologies, in both of these technologies, in non-solar, the examples of non-solar concentrated, non-concentrated solar power technologies is the simple solar photovoltaic power plants or the simple photovoltaic power generation. This can be regarded as a non-solar non-concentrated solar power technologies. This traditional PV, which we also say as the traditional PV. However, all these other types of solar technologies, which include CPV, which is also known as concentrated photovoltaic, the and the, all other solar thermal technologies. All solar thermal technologies and one form of solar photovoltaic technology, which is also known as CPV, concentrated photovoltaic. They are classified as solar concentrated power technology. I hope you have cleared with this thing that the solar technology is broadly classified in the non-concentrated solar power technology and the concentrated solar power technology. The only example of non-concentrated solar power technology is the traditional PV that we generally use uh, in our solar applications. However, all other examples of solar technology that are shown in this slide, that is CPV, that is concentrated photovoltaic, the dish engine, the trough, the power, the Fresnel reflector, all are actually the example of concentrated solar power technology. So it is clear from this slide that almost all the solar thermal power systems are generally regarded as the form of solar concentrated power technology. So in today's lecture, we will focus on uh, largely we will focus on the solar concentrated power technology and especially on the solar thermal technology. So from this introduction and this refresher, I will start my lecture. And before going into the lecture in large detail and the different solar technologies, we must know two things. One is the difference between direct diffuse and reflected radiations of the sun, and the other is that which are the areas that are suitable or which have better direct radiations and which other areas that have diffuse or reflected radiations in around the globe and generally in our country. So we can see here that actually the radiations can be classified in three forms, are named as three forms. One are the direct radiations, which reach on the solar panels or on receivers directly without any diffusion or reflection. And the other radiations are known as the diffuse radiation, and these radiations reach on our receiver via passing through the environment and via passing through the air particles and smoke and get diffused there. And then after diffusing there, they reach the receiver. And the third form of the radiations are the reflected from the ground, those radiation which touch the ground, and after reflection from the ground, they again reflect back to the solar receiver. So these are the three different form of the irradiance types or radiation that basically we achieve on the our solar receivers. So you can easily see here that the intensity of out of three these types, the intensity of the direct radiation is high as compared to the diffused and the reflected ones because it directly reaches the solar receivers without getting any diffusion from the air or dust particles and without getting any reflection from the earth. So the amount of direct radiation is very important for any solar receiver to produce electrical power and produce solar energy. So it means these direct radiations are very important, and the areas which are the land which receives this direct radiation in a good amount, those areas and those geographical locations will be regarded as good for solar electric power generation. So if we take the example of global around the world, we easily see that the areas around the some African areas there in the in US the California and Texas region, in Europe around Spain, and in subcontinent we have here in Pakistan this Quetta Gilgit region. These are the areas and there in the Middle East as well, Middle East in Saudi Arabia, UAE. These are the areas which are very good in getting direct solar radiation, and the amount of solar radiation that actually receives by the solar receiver there is in very good quantity. So in Pakistan, we talk about the Pakistan, we can easily see there that which areas are very good in the solar radiation and which are not that much important as per the direct normal solar radiance are specified. So we can see here that in Pakistan, Quetta has the highest solar normal direct normal solar radiance intensity, and it has around the value of around above 3000 then kilowatt hour per meter square. Then we have after Quetta we have Peshawar, and then we have Multan. After Multan, we have Karachi. After Karachi, we have Lahore, and then we have Islamabad. This is the data basically compiled for the four provincial capitals, and one is the federal capital. However, there are other areas as well which have good irradiance values other than these cities of the country. But this graph is just for the purpose to show that how the direct normal irradiance varies with the different geographical areas, and which areas of these important cities of the whole of the Pakistan is important cities, and which in which country in which city the radiation or the direct normal irradiance level or the value of direct normal irradiance value is better as compared to the other one. So we can easily see here. Now, I have already explained this slide to you that basically, but now we will discuss it in more detail. That this slide basically explain to you that the solar technologies are classified in the photovoltaic and solar thermal as well. So I have explained to you before that broadly the solar technologies are classified as concentrated and non-concentrated solar power technologies, and as per the as per the power generation technologies, or as per the methodology of the technological point of view, the solar technology can also be divided in the photovoltaic or the solar thermal part. So there are those technologies of the solar which uses electrons to produce power or energy. Those are known as the photovoltaic. It means photo stands for light and voltaic means volts, and those which do not use electrons or volts for production of energy, those technologies are known as solar thermal technology. So solar photovoltaic technologies can be divided again into two parts. One is traditional solar photovoltaic technology, which is an example of non-concentrated solar power technology, and the other one is the CPV, which is also known as concentrated photovoltaic, and it is an example of concentrated photovoltaic technology. And all solar thermal technologies, they are classified an example of, they are regarded an example of solar concentrated solar thermal solar solar concentrated solar technology. Now if we see that the traditional PV technologies, in which PV cells usually are silicon based, convert solar energy directly into electrical energy. So this is the explanation for this type of technology, and it ranges from less than 10 kilowatt to 10 megawatt. Then we have concentrated photovoltaic, and mirror or lenses focus sunlight onto multi-junction PV cell. And I will explain this thing to you people in the lecture ahead. So you will get easy understanding about that, or comprehensive understanding about this thing. So for the time being, it is important that mirror or lenses focus sunlight onto the multi-junction PV cell, that there is something like mirrors and lenses which focus the light on the PN junction, and due to that the intensity of light at the PN junction increases, and therefore they become more efficient as compared to the traditional PV technology, and therefore their power production range is around 100 kilowatt to 100 megawatt. Then we have dish engine, dual axis radial concentrated collector made up of the curved mirrors, as like this, made up of the curved mirror sunlight, and its range is 100 kilowatt to greater than 10 megawatt, 100 megawatt. Then this is a trough collector, this is a tower, and this is a Fresnel reflector. We will discuss all these technologies in the detail in the upcoming slides. Now, this is very interesting slide, and it actually explains the application of solar photovoltaic and solar thermal technologies. First of all, this thing. Secondly, it also explains the comparison of solar photovoltaic and solar thermal technology with respect to their power rating, and with respect to their required irradiance level for the proper functioning. So, if we look at this slide very closely, the graph shown here is basically on the y-axis is showing the annual global solar irradiation in kilowatt hour per meter square, and on the x-axis we have power range. So here it is clearly shown that this green block, it is basically representing the photovoltaic systems. Again, this green block, it is also representing the photovoltaic system. This green block with this yellow block is also explaining the photovoltaic system, and this yellow block, it is also explaining the photovoltaic system. Now these brown or orange color blocks, these two brown and orange color, they are representing the solar thermal technology. So if we look closely on these blocks, we will easily observe that, we can easily observe that first of all, that the operation operational range of solar photovoltaic, that is mini and micro photovoltaic system, is from 0 to 10 watt, and they can be operated on any irradiance level from around 0 to 2400 kilowatt hour per meter square, or around 2500 kilowatt hour per meter square. So we can easily say that these mini and micro photovoltaic system, they are flexible, and their power range is not that much high, but they can be operational on very less irradiance level. And the examples of these mini and micro photovoltaic systems are the wristwatches that we usually wear, the calculators that we use to calculate different things. They are the examples of these mini and micro photovoltaic systems. Then we have small PV islanded systems. For example, these systems are installed at homes, shops, and on small scale, and therefore they are known as a small PV islanded system. And solar homes are the good example of that. The power range for these systems is around 10 watt to 100 watt, and their irradiance requirement for the to install the system is from the minimum irradiance required is around 500 kilowatt hour per meter square to again the maximum they can work under the maximum irradiance level of the 25 kilowatt hour per meter square. Now again we have an example of large PV islanded system. And these systems are installed generally for a community level. For example, we can take an example of village, or we can example of a small housing scheme, or a small community, walled community where these can be applied. Even we can have these system at the university level, in the hospitals, any multi-story buildings, for example, apartment buildings, etc. So these systems are generally installed there. And the power range is around from 100 watt to 100 kilowatt. Again, their the solar irradiance requirement is around, you can say that 700 to 800 kilowatt hour per meter square. Similarly, small PV grid connect, these are the grid connected system which can work as isolation and as well as the grid connected system. So again, their irradiance requirement is around 800 watt kilowatt hour per meter square, and they can also work up to the 2500 kilowatt hour per meter square. Similarly, the same irradiance requirement is for large PV connected system. However, their power range is however, they produce large power, and their power range is high as compared to the small, large PV island system, small PV island system, and the mini and micro photovoltaic system. And the power range for such large PV grid connected system is 100 kilowatt to 10 megawatt. Now, this is the explanation for the photovoltaic system. But now if we compare these system with the solar thermal system, and we can easily see that the amount of irradiance required for the proper functioning of the solar system is very high. See, the large photovoltaic system can even work in the areas which have the irradiance level of around 800 kilowatt hour per meter square. However, if we look closely at the solar thermal system, we can see that the amount of minimum irradiance required for this is around 1800 kilowatt hour per meter square. First of all, this thing. Secondly, these solar thermal systems are economical, or they are beneficial not for the purpose of producing less power, because they are basically installed at those areas which have very high radiance levels. So, and they are installed for producing a large amount of the power, and they are basically used for producing the power above 10 kilowatt to 1 megawatt. And similarly, we can see that solar thermal trough and tower systems. These are the solar thermal dish slash Stirling system. Just keep this thing in your mind, and note this thing in your mind, because in the solar thermal technologies, we will further divide solar thermal technologies into trough and tower systems. and then we also divide them in the dish and Stirling system. So dish Stirling system are different from thermal trough and tower system. So it is important to know that the thermal dish Stirling system operate on the for less amount of the power, or they produce less amount of the power, and the solar thermal trough and tower system, they produce a large amount of power as compared to them as well. But the operating range of the irradiance level required for their operation is almost similar. Both can operate only after in the areas which have 1800 kilowatt hour per meter square of the irradiance level. So we can easily conclude, or we can easily evaluate from this slide that the PV systems are flexible. They can operate in various sizes and in various ranges and at various irradiance levels from 0 to 2500. However, the solar thermal technologies, they can operate only those areas in which the amount of irradiance is greater than 1800 to 1700 kilowatt hour per meter square. So it means that application of uh, uh, the application of solar thermal technologies will be limited as compared to the photovoltaic system, because those areas around the world are in less quantity as compared to the which have the irradiance level of greater than 1800 kilowatt per meter square. And mostly these are those areas which are generally close to the equator or which are deserts. So, because of this reason, the solar thermal power plants or the solar thermal power technologies does not get that much favorable response from the engineering community or the consumers for their installation and being used as for the production of electrical power. Now we will start with the explanation of these solar because we have focused on the solar concentrated power technologies, and out of these solar concentrated power technologies, first of all we are discussing this CPV, the concentrated photovoltaic technology. Now what is this concentrated photovoltaic technology? This is very easy to understand. So see here that these are the cells. These are the solar cells. One, two, three. The solar cells are placed on the panel. And these are the solar cells which are placed on the panel. What we do in case of the concentrated solar photovoltaic technology is that we place a mirror, we place a lens or mirror above the solar cells, and the purpose of that mirror or the optical light collector is that and this optical light collector, I have also already told you that it could be any mirror or lens, and the purpose of this optical light collector, this mirror that is placed over the cell, is that to converge the light on the PN junction and concentrate the light on the PN junction of the cell. So all the light coming from the atmosphere, it basically first of all incident this mirror or lens, and after getting incident, concentrated, it get concentrated or converged on the cells after passing through that. So the intensity of the light increases as soon as it reaches to the cell, and as now the cell receives the light with more intensity, the output voltage and the output current of the cell increases. As the output current of the cell increases, the output power of the solar panel increases. Therefore, the concentrated solar photovoltaic PV panels or the concentrated photovoltaic panels, they produce more power as compared to the traditional photovoltaic panels. The CPV can only use, however, there are few problems with this technology. As it is good for the it is this technique is good. However, and it is not only good, but it can especially be applied in those areas which have light or low light intensity, or the area which have less irradiance level as compared to the others. So this can easily be used in those areas for producing the same amount of the power. However, there are some limitations of this technology as well. That is, the CPV can only use direct beam radiation and cannot use diffuse radiation. So, as you know that this is the example of again CPV. This is a mirror lens that is placed. The as soon as the direct beam, as long as the direct beams are coming on this mirror length, uh, that can converge on the solar cell like this, as it is shown here. When we get any diffused radiation, or when we get any reflected radiation on this lens, it will not converge on the cell. However, it will diffract it to some other angle, and it will not concentrate on the cell. So for the usage of concentrated PV, CPV, we have must have the high amount of, or the good intensity of direct irradiation beams, because the diffuse irradiation beams cannot be concentrated or the converge on the solar cell. Therefore, these systems are suited best for the areas which have high direct normal irradiance. For proper light concentration, sun tracking is needed for achieving high cell performance. Now, as we do not, as these systems require direct beams for proper functioning, so it is not possible for each geographical location that it has that much good amount of direct normal radiation, or even if some geographical location has good amount of direct irradiation, but with the different times, with the change in the times of the day, these direct normal irradiation also changes, or their intensity also changes. So if we want to keep the concentration of these direct normal radiations on the mirror lens to be the same over the whole time or the whole day, so for that purpose we have to perform what? We have to perform the tracking, and that should be a 2D tracking, and we have to perform the sun tracking for that, for achieving the good performance of the system. Tracking is especially critical for high concentration system, so it means the concentrated solar power technology requires tracking. And now, uh, tracking is a good thing because it will increase the power, it will increase the output of the photovoltaic panel. But there is also a drawback of the tracking, that it will involve cost, and as it will involve cost, the overall cost of your system will increase, which ultimately result in the expensive electricity production. Now, if we compare the advantages and disadvantages of the concentrated photovoltaic, first of all, less PV material required, hence less cost. So, first advantage is that because it is the concentrated technology, so as a single cell now produce more current and more power as compared to the traditional PV, because of the concentration of the irradiance or the light rays on the cell. It requires less cells to produce the same amount of the power, and resultantly the amount of it will cost less as the number of cells reduces in the panel. But with concentrated sunlight, formation of hotspot is possible. But that disadvantage is that because due to this light concentration, there might be a hotspot developed on the panel, which will actually damage your cells. Increased efficiency. So it is very clear that efficiency of the cells increase because of the concentration of light. However, tracking system increase complexity. But if we want to increase this efficiency, we need to have a tracking system, and the tracking system actually increase the complexity of the system. Higher productivity throughout the day due to the tracking. This is the advantage that we already discussed, that throughout the day the productivity of the concentrated PV technology will be higher because we are performing tracking and we are tracking with the sun. But CPV can properly function only under the direct beam radiation, or secondly, that they can only perform best under the direct beam radiation, and we will require a direct beam radiation all the day. So these are the advantages and disadvantages of the CPV technology. Now, as per the market point of view, now where this technology stand in the market and what is the current status of the market, now we have to discuss. CPV systems have been much less represented on the market compared to the traditional. Why? In 2012, the only utility scale CPV plant in operation was a 5 megawatt project in Hatch, New Mexico, commissioned in June 2011. Delson et al. 2012. So this is the reference that I have quoted about this fact that in 2000 and it is mentioned in this paper that in 2012 the only utility scale CPV plant is operational was a 5 megawatt project in Hatch, New Mexico. However, the number of CPV projects launched for utility electricity production was rapidly growing. The limited commercial success of CPV to date is partly because these systems are more complex than PV systems. The other thing, during 2008, as silicon prices were reaching new market highs, CPV system appeared ready for a commercial breakthrough. Prices have since collapsed, however, and this has changed the economics of several alternative technology, including CPV. So, in 2008, as the silicon prices raised to a very high values, so at that time the CPV gained the concentrated photovoltaic technology gained much acceptance from the market players because as the silicon price is high, now if we increase the number of cells or if we made the panel with the same number of the cells, no, it will cost more. However, if we use the CPV technologies, as we have discussed in the advantages of the CPV, that for the CPV technology, the number of cell reduces. So if the number of cell reduces, it means the amount of silicon used in the manufacturing of the solar cell or solar panel will also reduce. So as these silicon prices were high in 2008, so the market players basically appreciated this concept a lot, and they get self involved in the CPV technology. However, after 2000, around 2011 and 12, the market prices get reduced of the silicon, and since then it is on the verge of reduction, and each year the silicon prices reduces, and due to the reduction in the silicon prices, the CPV has now not become that much famous or that much accepted in the market after that, and now people are working more on the traditional PV technology because they are of the view that to invest on the mirror and lens of the CPV. Secondly, on the tracking system of the CPV. Instead of that, they can easily increase the size of the panel. They can easily they can use the panel with the more number of cells and produce the same amount of the power. So the benefit that get by the reduction of the cell and by the reduction of usage of the silicon is not that much encouraging as compared to the prices that get high because of using of the tracking and the that mirror or the lens that have to be placed above the cell for the concentration of the light on the PN junction of the cell. So concentrated solar power technologies after CPV, now concentrated solar power covers a range of the technology that utilize optical devices such as mirrors and lenses to concentrate the beam solar radiation and to provide for higher efficiency of its conversion into other form of energy. Typically, in many sources, concentrated solar power systems are associated with the solar thermal power. So that I have already explained to. Although in general sense, CSP can work with both thermal power and the photovoltaic. This also I have explained with you. Conversion of the concentrated sunlight can follow three routes: conversion to heat, electricity, and fuel. Large utility scale plants primarily use the concentration of solar thermal energy. Concentrated solar power technologies can only benefit from direct beam radiation and therefore are best suited to the regions with a high percentage of clear sky. So these solar thermal technologies and solar concentrated PV technologies that we have already discussed, they can be best suited for those areas with the high and direct beam irradiance. So which these are and these areas are not that much in the world. Therefore, they get less acceptance from the society as compared to the PV technologies, which are more flexible. The location that has significant cloudiness, smog, or dust are not favorable for the concentrated solar PV technologies. By concentrator configuration, the commercial CSP, concentrated CP technologies include parabolic trough systems, central receiver tower, parabolic dish system, and the linear system. And in the coming slide, we will discuss all these technologies, which are the example of solar thermal technologies of concentrated solar power technologies. The cost of concentrated solar power technology is mainly associated with capital investment. The main avenues for cost efficiency are linked to technical process progress in CSP technology, R&D effort, and lesson learned from the operating plant. Secondly, scaling up to larger plant size, which allows for the use of more cost-effective turbine for power conversion. So here is the answer that why concentrated solar power technologies are more effective or more efficient, or they are designed or they are installed at higher power values or the for the large power plants, because the scaling up to larger power plant size, which allow for the use of more cost effective turbines of power conversion. And because at a high or for the large scale power plant, the sizes of the turbine and we need a large size of turbine in power conversion technology. Therefore, the automatically the cost of the equipment on per unit cost of the electricity reduces. Therefore, we generally use these concentrated solar power technologies for the large power plants. Secondly, technical progress in CSP, concentrated solar power technology, R&D efforts, and lesson learned from the operating plants are also the few avenues in which we can work on for improving the efficiency as well as the cost effectiveness of these power plants. The CSP technology has been commercialized and has experienced rapid growth since 2005, in part stimulated by the international concern for increased fossil fuel combustion and climate change. Worldwide, the CSP expansion was led by Spain, which has most concentrated solar power plants currently installed. So the world leader is Spain, which has installed most of the concentrated solar power plant, and the success story is live with the Spain. And Spain has experienced a lot on the concentrated solar power technology. These are the four different commercial concentrated solar power technologies for solar thermal type. And one is the concentrated PV, and that is actually the part for the photovoltaic type. So this is for the solar thermal type for commercial concentrated solar power technology. One is the linear Fresnel reflector. The other one is this one is known as the power tower. This tower is known as the power tower, and this is the dish engine or the Stirling dish, and this is the parabolic trough collector. And we will discuss each of them in detail in the upcoming slides. Now, first of all, parabolic trough concentrated solar power technology. We are discussing first of all this parabolic concentrator or the parabolic trough concentrated solar power technology. Why it is known as parabolic trough? Because of its shape. You can see that this receiver here, as it is shown in this picture as well, it has the shape of parabola. It has the shape of parabola, so it is known as parabolic, and it is trough. So therefore, it is a parabolic trough collector. So what does this parabolic trough collector do? When the when the sunlight or the solar radiance incident or these parabolic troughs, which are reflective surfaces, which are reflective, and these reflections are made by installing the mirrors on them, by making these stuff with the shiny surfaces, or by coating them with some type of shiny sheets. So when the light incident on these troughs, on the surfaces of these parabolic troughs, it gets reflected back, and after reflection back, it strikes these tubes that are installed on the troughs. You can easily see these tubes here in this slide as well. The light incident from the sun, the light incident on these troughs, parabolic troughs, and after getting reflected back, after incident, it getting reflected back, it gets reflected back, and after reflection, it strike on this tube, which is right inside or the right in between all these troughs. So this tube carries basically any liquid which gets the heat from these incident radiation of the light, and after getting this heat, this high temperature liquid, it goes any concentrator or any mixture where it perform further functions. So I'm explaining again here with you that after the light get incident here on this parabolic trough, it gets reflected back, and after get reflected back, it incident on these tubes, and these tubes carry some type of liquid, and mostly this is a liquid fuel. The amount of temperature after getting reflection back these incident rays, it raises the temperature in these tube around 400 to 500 degree centigrade. Fine. So these linear focus collector consist of a cylindrically curved, these are the cylindrically curved parabolic mirror which reflect the sunlight onto a tubular receiver. These are the tubular receivers positioned in the focus line of the parabola. These tubular receivers contain the fluid that absorbs heat and transfer it via circulation to the boiler or another device to produce the steam. So again, this slide is clearly explaining again the same concept. The light get incident on these cylindrical parabolic trough collectors, and after incident it gets reflected back, and after reflection it hits these tubes. These absorber pipes, what they do, they have a liquid in them which is flowing inside them. So the amount of when all the rays gets reflected back and strike to these tubes, the heat is transferred to the medium inside the tubes. So the medium inside the tube, which is normally a liquid fuel or liquid oil, it gets heated up and it gains temperature. And which amount of the and how much temperature this fuel inside the tubes it gains around 400 to 500 degrees centigrade. So that much increase in temperature can be seen inside these tubes, which are also known as the absorber pipe. So these are the parabolic mirrors which are installed on these trough collectors. This is the steel structure of the parabolic trough, and it can be rotated in any direction. The motors are installed right here, and with the help of the motor, these parabolic trough collectors can have a 3D movement. They can move here, they can be placed in a straight form, they can rotate to this side as well. So parabolic trough collectors actually move with the sun, with the movement of the sun. So as the now currently the sun is placed here, so the parabolic trough collectors are uh, in the direction of the sun. As soon as the sun started its movement and it reaches here, above here at this point, the parabolic trough collector also start their movement, and they basically move along with the sun. And when the sun reaches on the other side of the trough, right at this time, instead of this time, so the shape or the face of the trough collectors will be at that side. So we can easily see that say that these troughs move along with the movement along with the direction of the sun, and they have 3D movement. If they do not have this phenomena or this facility with them, then if in this case they are producing they are getting the light from the sun, the light is getting reflected back to the tubes and the fluid is getting heated up. However, when the sun reaches here and the direction of the parabolic trough collectors remains in the same direction, which is right now, you can see that now the troughs are in this direction, the faces of the troughs are in direction, and the sun is here on the other side. So the sunlight will not reach onto the surface of the cylindrical parabolic trough, and therefore when the light will not reach here, it will not reflect back to the this absorber pipe, and resultantly the liquid inside this absorber pipe will not get heated up. So this is a major drawback of this system, and which can be solved with the help of 3D tracking. However, the 3D tracking or the 3D movement of the parabolic trough collector requires basically the electrical energy to be used up, the motors, the tracking system, which actually not only in a complex phenomena, but also it increases the cost of the system a lot. But if we compare the parabolic concentrators with the other solar thermal technology, we will find out that the parabolic trough collectors are the most efficient uh, solar thermal technology as compared to the other thermal technology, and it has the highest efficiency. But this efficiency also high efficiency of the but this high efficiency of the parabolic trough collector required the 3D tracking as well. So they are efficient, but this technique is efficient, this methodology is efficient. It produces a good amount of heat and the amount of energy produced is very high, but it requires 3D tracking, which increases the cost of the system. So the engineers and scientists find out the other ways to basically produce a economical electricity production. Therefore, they have sorted the other ways as well, and now we will discuss the other one, which is the central tower concentrated solar power technology. Now, the central receiver, which is you can see here in this slide, this is the central receiver systems. This is the central receiver, and this central receiver system, which is you can see here in this slide, the expanded one. This is the central tower, and in front of this tower, not where the receiver is placed. If the receiver is placed on both sides of the tower, that is on this side of the tower and on the back of the tower as well, then the mirrors are placed around the tower in every direction, each direction. However, if the receiver is installed only at one side of the tower, then the mirrors are only placed in that on that side of the tower on which the receiver is placed. And these mirrors are placed on the ground, and what these mirrors are doing, they are basically reflecting back the sunlight that is incident upon them. After the sunlight incident on them, they reflect that incident back to the receiver of this uh, solar central tower, and as these reflected rays reaches here or the receiver, the amount of energy received here is huge, and which is in the form of heat, and this heat energy is then used to heat up the water or any other working fluid for production of steam and running the turbine, which resultantly produces the electrical power. So the central tower system is a good example for a central receiving system, and this it is basically consists of what these mirrors, and these mirrors are positioned around the tower, and these mirrors are known as heliostats. The name of these mirrors or these reflectors is generally they are named as the heliostats. These concentrated tower power plants have higher levels of concentration than the linear systems. For example, the parabolic trough collector or the linear Fresnel system. The reflected rays here is further used to heat the steam and convert it into the electricity, and I have already explained to you. Central concentrated solar power plant or the central receiver concentrated solar power plant, which we are discussing, are typically large scale that are usually built to power a steam cycle. Central position of the receiver offers the universal advantage to collect all energy at one location. Fixed position of the central receiver results in limitation of light collection. Therefore, these heliostats or the mirror, they are always oriented at an angle to direct beam. So the amount of energy collected is less compared to the parabolic concentrator. Therefore, to reach the necessary efficiencies of the light concentration, the size of the collecting field is increased. The size of the collecting field. What this means is that because we are not performing any 3D tracking with this system, because these mirrors, these heliostats are not always moving with the movement of the sun or in the direction of the sun. So to compensate that efficiency drop, the size of the field, the size where the heliostats are placed, that is increased. So now we actually have that light that we can have from the parabolic trough collector due to its 3D tracking. Uh, uh, we actually have that light by increasing the size of the field, which means that we have to increase the number of heliostat of the mirror. Which brings into the, but this brings into consideration high environmental impact and higher capital cost. Significant potential for developing large-scale central receiver plant is hence attributed to, therefore, because they need, first of all, they need more land. They need a large amount of land. Furthermore, due to this, the land use, there are some environmental impacts and the higher cost involved there. And furthermore, we also know that these central solar concentrated power technologies are generally are good for the areas which have direct normal radiation, and I have also explained to you most of these areas these areas include desert areas. So one reason is that the availability of the direct normal radiations or beams. The second is the land use, and because of both reasons, these power plants are generally installed in the desert. Now, the third form of solar thermal technology is the parabolic dish concentrated solar power technology. And these are the single focal point. This technology has the single focal point. This is the focal point when the sun rays are incident on this parabolic dish. These incident rays are reflected back to this single point, and all the rays that are reflected are parallel to the axis of the parabola are directed towards the external receiver, this central receiver. Highest concentration ratio among all other solar thermal technology. So this dish collector the dish solar concentrated solar power technology, parabolic dish concentrated solar power technology has the highest ratio among others solar collector. Usually, losses occur in the technology are associated with the imperfection of dish alignment, and secondly, the non-ideality of this mirror or the reflection surfaces. The engine that is placed at this central point, this engine, it actually converts the solar energy into electricity placed at the focal point. The technology can be used for both large scale and small scale power generation. Parabolic dish is a very efficient and flexible technology which is suitable for various applications. There are many cases of applying these technology in remote locations to provide self-sustained power for water heating, water pumping, and alternative power. One of the features of dish Stirling system, what is this? This is the dish Stirling system. This is the Stirling system. What is its important feature? One of the important features of the dish Stirling system is their low inertia. Now, the Stirling system or the engine that is basically installed here for the production of mechanical energy on the dish power in the dish concentrated solar power is that it's one of the good features is that it has low inertia. What this means is that it has a low inertia. It means that a less amount of or very less amount of energy is required for initial starting of this Stirling engine. So as soon as these sun rays or the solar rays incident rays reflected back towards the central point, the Stirling engine got started up and it started working. Stirling engines are very sensitive to variation in solar intensity and results in sharp variation in power output and frequent interruptions if the meteorological conditions are not perfect. Because of the high intermittence, what this intermittence means? Intermittence means variation. Because of the high variation, energy storage applications which would buffer the power output would be desirable, but at the moment are not well developed. Now, the fourth important technology is the linear Fresnel concentrated solar power technology. The linear Fresnel concentrated solar power technology it has gained much interest of the researcher in the previous few years, and this is because of its high efficiency and the less cost involved as compared to other solar concentrated solar power technology. And furthermore, these are highly modular, that is, that can be easily placed or moved from one place to another, ranging from they can be built for the few hundred kilowatt up to the several megawatt sizes and offer the lowest land occupancy compared to the other CSP technology. The main advantage of linear Fresnel CSP technology is that their simple design of flat or flexible bend mirrors and fixed receivers requires lower investment cost and offer the wide range of configuration. So what this mean is that is the simple design or the flat and flexibility bend mirror. So see, they have the simple design. Their mirror, these are the mirrors placed below, placed on the ground, and this is that modular tube. This is the tube or the absorber pipe, which actually has the liquid inside. So, which absorb the heat. The sun or the solar irradiations basically first strike or incident on these mirrors, and these mirrors are placed at such an angle that they reflect back those incident rays on this absorber pipe. And after getting after these reflected rays on this absorber pipe, the water, because in the case of linear Fresnel reflector, we generally do not use any oil because for the large scale linear Fresnel reflector, we can easily use the water, the working fluid, water as a working fluid, which further reduces the cost of the linear Fresnel reflector technology. So, however, for the medium range, and for the medium range power plant based on the linear Fresnel technology, we use both oil or water as the working fluid. But for the large scale power plant, we use water as the working fluid. So we were actually saying that this is a simple design because the mirrors are placed on the ground, flat mirrors or generally a bit carved one, and they are basically they can the type of tracking in this type of concentrated solar power technology is 2D tracking, and we do not perform 3D tracking in this system. Therefore, it is further one advantage that we do not need to have a 3D tracking, which further reduces the cost of the system as well. Now, originally designed for low and medium power applications, LFRs are now being designed for higher temperature, which facilitate direct steam generation. And in the next slide, I will explain to you what do you mean by direct steam generation. Fresnel system can be configured to operate over a wide range of temperatures from 200 to 500 degrees centigrade. Linear Fresnel reflectors have great potential in southern Africa due to the low cost and high percentage of local manufacture inherent in the technology. Now applications, first they can use be as a medium heat generation, which is this what this mean is that medium heat systems for industrial applications or supplementary power system operate in the temperature range of 100 to 250 degrees centigrade and may use water or oil as the heat transfer medium. So in medium heat generation system, we can use either that I have already told you for the medium size power plant or the medium heat generation level or the for those and the applications where we need the medium heat or that not that much high temperature, we can use both oil and water as a working fluid in these absorber pipe. However, direct steam generation means thanks to the fixed absorber tubes, direct steam generation is easier in LFR power plants than in the parabolic power plant. DSG has several advantages over oil heat transfer medium, and I will explain this direct steam generation and medium heat generation again in the final slides of this lecture. Advantages of direct steam generation: steam as heat transfer fluid allows heat higher temperatures because there is no danger of thermo oil cracking. Now, this slide basically this slide basically explain to you the difference between the direct steam generation and direct steam generation and the uh, direct steam generation and the medium steam generation system. You can see here that for the direct steam generation, uh, sorry, this slide is not basically explaining to you that I have animation for explaining the concept of direct steam and medium for the comparison of both. But I can explain to you here is that the in direct steam generation, what we do is that the working fluid when after the reflection of the incident light from the Fresnel mirror and when these incident rays reaches the absorber tube, if the medium inside the absorber tube is oil, so which means that the oil will take up this heat which is actually accumulated in the oil due to the incident of reflected rays on the absorber tube. After trapping that heat, the oil around at 250 degrees centigrade, it moves in this absorber tube, and after passing through the absorber tube, it enters in a heat exchanger. In the heat exchanger, from one side oil is coming and from the other side the water is coming. So in the heat exchanger, we have the radiator type tubes due to the increased in surface area for the heat exchanging. The oil in the heat exchanger actually exchanges its heat with the water, and the water gets heated up. The cold water that is coming from the near side drain or lake into the heat exchanger that gets that heat from the oil, that oil that is coming from the absorber tube. Now the water heated up gets heated up and converted into the steam. Now this steam will pass over the turbine, and the turbine will start moving, and due to the movement of the turbine the electricity will be produced after installing the generation with the turbine. So this is the concept of medium generation, or the generation which uses basically the oil as a working fluid in the absorber tube, and this is the phenomena for linear Fresnel corrector with the medium range, and this is the same phenomena for the parabolic trough collector. Similar thing happen in the parabolic trough collector, but the parabolic in the parabolic trough collector we have a 3D tracking, and the tubes are installed on the cylindrical parabolic trough. However, in the case of the linear frustrator, the mirrors are placed on the land, and there is a one common tube that is passing over the group of the mirror inside between them. Now, what is the direct steam generation? Now, in the direct steam generation, the working fluid is not oil, but the working fluid is water itself. Now, the water will move inside the absorber pipe, and due to the incident of the reflected rays from the mirror on the absorber pipe, the water traps this heat. So if we maintain certain pressure of the water inside the absorber tube, the water will accumulate more and more temperature, and the steam will become a saturated steam. And this saturated steam directly converted from the water will be passed on the turbine, and it will now directly pass on the turbine, and the turbine will start moving. Now, in the direct steam generation, if you compare it with the medium generation, or the generation that has happened through the working by using the working fluid, oil as a working fluid, the main difference is that the elimination of the heat exchanger. In this case, where we are using the water as a working fluid inside the absorber pipe, the there is no heat exchanger. The water gets itself heated up, and after converting the steam, it is passed on the it is passed on the turbine. So first of all, in the direct steam generation system, we have a working fluid water. So again, the water is easily available, so it will reduce the cost. Instead of using the oil, we are using the water. Secondly, elimination of elimination of heat exchanger. Heat exchanger itself cost a lot. So now the heat exchanger is not like. Thirdly, in heat exchanger, when we transfer heat from oil to the water, there are some losses that occur due to this heat exchanging phenomena, and these losses are in the form of heat. So our heat losses there. So if we use the direct steam generation system, our losses will be less, and therefore, because now there are less heat losses, so our ultimately our system will be efficient as well. Furthermore, the direct steam generating system has another advantage, is that as water is environmental friendly and the oil is not that much environmental friendly, so leakage of oil from the absorber pipe will may distract your environment, or the environment will become in danger. Furthermore, water is less corrosive than salt. Its freezing temperature is much lower than the freezing temperature of the salt. So if we are using as oil as a working fluid or the salt or the molten salt as a working fluid in the heat exchanger, so in both cases water is less corrosive, and therefore the overall the working path of the life of the working path of the working fluid will increase due to the this in case of this direct steam generation. Now this is again a picture which is explaining to you the Fresnel reflector, how these mirrors are placed on the land and how they are reflecting back the incident light to the this absorber pipe. Now, how this thermal electric power conversion take place in the these centrally solar tower power plants uh, to make usable energy from solar heat collection in CSP plants, thermodynamic power conversion cycles are used. Heat transfer fluid is directly heated in receivers. Heat transfer fluid. This is basically a heat transfer fluid, and this heat transfer fluid is basically it can be water, it can be molten salt, it can be any oil. So this heat transfer fluid is continuously moving from this heat exchanger or a reheater to the or heat exchanger to this tower. So what happens is that these heliostats that are placed in front of this solar tower, these basically reflect the sunlight on the receiver of the solar tower. The these incident rays are basically received in the form of heat energy. The working fluid that is moving at a normal temperature to this receiver, it gets this heat, the large amount of heat from this concentrated receiver, and this working fluid gets heated up. So this high temperature fluid will then pass through this heat exchanger, which is basically compromises of superheater, reheater, and vaporizer and economizer. And after passing through this heat exchanger, the working fluid basically loses its heat, and then again it is ready to reach here in the tower. So in the heat exchanger, this working fluid basically exchanges its heat with the water. And from where this water is coming from? This water is coming from nearby lake or something like that. And then it is then it reaches here, and then it is passes through the this heat exchanger. The oil or the working fluid coming from the solar tower basically exchanges its heat in this exchanger. It loses its heat and gets cooled down, and the water, which is at normal temperature, gets that heat from the heat exchanger, and it gets heated up and take that heat and convert it into the steam. The steam from this heat exchanger then is thrown on the turbine, and due to that a high pressure steam, the turbine start moving, and the movement of the turbine results in the movement of the rotor of the generator, and ultimately the power is produced. The working fluid, sorry, the the water that has actually gained the heat in this heat exchanger after passing through the turbine has lost its heat, and now it has again now it has now it is a steam or a condensed liquid at a low temperature will now reach at the condenser, and the condenser will condense this water again to the working water or the feed water, and the feed water pump again introduce this water into the heat exchanger. The condenser will drop down the temperature of this water by the water coming from the cooling tower. The cooling tower will actually cool this, the cooling tower will cool the water here in the condenser, and again the water is ready for being used as the feed water through the feed pump here in this. So this is the thermoelectric conversion phenomena, which is basically much related to the steam power plant, but uh, a thing that is different here as compared to the steam power plant is the working fluid. In most of the steam power plants, we generally use water as a main working fluid and water to be converted into the steam. But here in this thermal or the solar thermal power plants, mostly we use any other type of working fluid, for example, oil, any molten salt, as a basic working fluid, and then that working fluid basically that working fluid will be then used to heat up the water or convert the water into the steam to be used as a to be used for moving the turbine. Now, this is another example of this thermoelectric conversion in the case of parabolic trough collectors. Here, this is a heat exchanger, and this is a hot tank, and this is the cold tank. And this hot tank and cold tanks, they are introduced here for the storage purpose. And for which storage purpose? For the molten salt storage purpose. And why they are storing this? That because whenever the sun is available, we have the amount of energy produces more than our requirement. So the amount of energy that produced here is then stored in the form of stored in the hot tank. And after and the time of the day when we do not have that much sun, or in the evening, then this storage or the molten salt that is stored in the hot tank, it will then come in this heat exchanger. It will then heat up the water, and the cold salt will now, or the salt with less temperature will be now stored in the cold tank, and the heat that has been grabbed here from the hot tank salt, molten salt, is used for heating up the water coming from here, and this water will now go to the here superheater or the reheater, and the steam will be used to the turbine. So this concept is not only explaining the thermal electric conversion, but it is also explaining the thermal electric conversion with the storage as well, that if we have abundant amount of energy available, then we can also store that energy in the form of hot and the cold tanks or the storage tank. Now, this slide is also explaining one more thing to you, that in case of solar photovoltaic or the solar or the photovoltaic applications, we generally use batteries for the energy storage. However, in the case of solar thermal technologies, as this is energy in the form of heat, we do not use actually the batteries as a storage medium. We generally use hot tanks or the cold tanks for the storage as the storage medium of the energy. And in these hot tanks, basically the molten salt actually have the heat, molten salt grab the energy, and it is stored in this hot tank, and and preserve the energy for for different hours of the day. So again, I will also share an animation based on this concept with you on the Teams group of our class, and that animation will really explain or make you understand about this concept, that how molten salt is used as a storage purpose for the thermoelectric power conversion. So this is again an example of fractional collector, that these are the mirrors placed on the land. This is the absorber tube. These mirrors basically reflect back the light on this absorber tube. When the working fluid get that much heat, the heated working fluid, that is the water and any oil, it reaches here in this heat exchanger. Here in this heat exchanger, the water is converted into steam, or the oil converts its energy to the water, that is basically converted into a steam. That is steam is then thrown on the turbine, and the turbine runs, and resultantly your generator and the electricity is produced. So this is also the concept of thermoelectric conversion in the case of fractional technology. This is the example of the thermoelectric conversion in the case of parabolic trough collectors, and this is example of the thermoelectric conversion in case of the central solar tower technology. So I've also explained to you electrical power conversion technologies for the case of different solar thermal technology. For example, in case of solar thermal tower technology, it is like this. In case of solar, in case of parabolic reflector technology, it works like this. And in case of fluorescent technology, it works like this. But in all of these cases, the similarities